All right. Good morning, everybody. Can somebody confirm if they can hear me well? Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me well. Yeah, can somebody give me a thumbs up if you can hear my voice properly? All right. What about the rest? I see only one thumbs up. Rest of the guys can't hear me. If you guys can hear me, just give me a thumbs up. I see many from Abhi. How about the rest? Everybody awake? It's morning. So I want to see a lot of thumbs up before I get going. Then only I'll know you guys can hear me. Yeah. I'm assuming you guys can hear me. And also, this is a little different. We are going to have a back and forth. We are going to have a very interactive session. So, can somebody type in the chat box and tell me whether they can actually able to type and I can see it. So, type anything. So, just say good morning on the chat box here if you can, because we'll be doing back and forth. I would love for you to speak with me, but if not, then you can type your answers, messages in the box. Can somebody type and tell me? I will know you are there and you can type. Yeah. Can somebody type in the message box? Somebody has to get going. I can say a lot of names. How do I get going until I know that you guys are there and paying attention? So if somebody can type in the box, the message box here, and let me know that you guys can respond on the chat box. So you guys can respond with emojis, or you guys can respond on the chat box. If you guys don't want to speak up, right? Yeah. Because we are going to start with a question, right? I mean, what is this? What do you guys think this topic is about? What is this metrics and measurements topic? Right? I see a lot of people on the call. Just take a shot at it. What are we going to talk about today? What is metrics and measurement? What do we mean by? I mean, the words are very simple, right? Measurement is measuring something, so you get a value, right? But what are we going to talk about today? What do you think we are going to talk about today? Huh? Any thoughts? So, any ideas on what I mean by metrics and measurements? Right? Any thoughts? What I mean by metrics and measurements? Usually, the Tuesday group, I'm taking a session after quite some time. After a few weeks back, I had taken a session, but the Tuesday group was quite interactive. I don't know why not today. But can somebody take a shot at what do we mean by metrics and measurements? What are we going to talk about today? Because if you think about it, right? I mean, we are we usually, right, everybody hesitates to measure things, right? So do you guys have can you think of an example of any measurement? It can be anything in your life, in your college, in your personal life, anything you have, that there's a measurement, there's a number behind something. Anything you can think of as an example where you believe that this is a measurement, right? But there's a difference between metrics and measurement, right? So right now I'm only talking about measurement. Any Can you give an example of a measurement? Akash, Abhinaya, I see so many names. Angel, Ashmita, Ashwin, Bharti, Bhuvana, Christopher, Denny, Divyadarshini, Hari, Hassan. What's an example of what is an example of a measurement? Right? Any thoughts on what a measurement is? So let's take an example, right? So if you want to be you say that I want to become a runner, right? I want to start running, right? So if you want to say that I want to start running, What is that? How would you know? What would you do if you decide to say that I want to start running, right? What will you measure if you want to become a runner? What will you measure? Give me a thumbs up, guys, if you're able to. Distance, perfect. Khushbu, perfect. Distance, time, absolutely. So that those are measurements, right? So now, but if you say you want to become a runner, right? Uh, will you just say, okay, I want to run distance, I want to run for a long time, or will you actually say it in a different way? If you want to become a runner, how will you know you have become a runner, right? So distance and time are measurements. That's perfect. How much distance am I traveling in how much time? Correct. So that's a measurement, right? But is there anything else? So because your goal is to become a runner, correct? So what? How will you know you have become a runner? What will you do to know that? This is your own. You're deciding that for yourself. But how? What will you decide? Do people agree that distance and time are measurements? So basically, I can say that something is 100 meters, something is 200 meters, right? I can say that, okay, I ran for 10 seconds, I ran for 20 seconds, I ran for 30 seconds, I ran for 10 minutes, 1 hour. So these are all measurements, right? Does everybody agree? If you agree, just give me a thumbs up. Do you agree these things are measurements, pure measurements? Can you give me a thumbs up if you guys agree? If you guys agree that these are measurements, give me a thumbs up, right? So besides Khushbu, everybody else disagrees that these are not measurements. So Saran is agreeing with me, right? These are all measurements, right? But then if I say that I want to become a runner, right? Then is it enough to say that, okay, I'll just keep measuring the distance I run and I'll keep measuring the time I run? Is that enough to say? Or will you start doing something else to know that you're becoming a better and better runner? What will you do to know whether you're becoming a better and better runner? Or will you just keep measuring how much you ran every day and how much time you're running, how much distance you're running? Is that the way you will do it, or you will actually uh, do something else to know that you're becoming a runner? What will you do to know that you're becoming a runner slowly and surely? Because see, your goal is to become a runner, right? So it's not enough. And see, while this sounds like a very simple example, right, this actually goes into exactly how metrics and measurements work, how the industry functions. Because in industry also there are measurements and there are metrics, and everything is done based on that. And as students, as you get into the industry, right, when you go for your interviews also, the more you can talk in this language, is more objective, more about numbers, the more the person is going to get convinced that you understand it, right? I mean, you're in the world of data now, and everything is about data. You cannot, in this example, if we say that I want to become a runner, that is not enough. How will you know you have become a good runner? So what will you do? If I'll ask you this way. If I just say that, okay, I'm running 5 kilometers every day and I'm running for this much time, is that good enough? Or I will say that, okay, I have a goal to run 5 kilometers in a certain time. And once I hit that goal, then only I know I achieved it. And I will keep measuring till I know I'm hitting that goal or I'm progressing towards that goal. Would you do it that way, or would you just keep measuring? Or would you have a goal where you put a number to that goal, saying I need to run 5 kilometers in this much time, and only then I will say that I'm a 5K runner? What will it be? Will it be A or B? Will you just keep measuring, or will you actually have a goal? If you believe you'll have a goal, you'll set a goal, then give me a thumbs up if you agree. Or if you don't, then give me a thumbs down. That no, it's measurements. Those are important. And measurements, of course, are important. But if you want to know that you're becoming a good runner, will you have a goal for yourself or not? Yeah, will you have a goal or not? Give me a thumbs up if you think you'll have a goal. Yeah. So Khushbu, what do you think? Will you have a goal, or you won't have a goal if you want to become a runner? You will have a goal, right? Obviously. And that is a simple thing. That is called a metric, guys. That's it. That's called a metric. So in the industry, right, when you hear that somebody says that, oh, our battery can last for 12 hours, right? That they tell it to you as a measurement, but they had set that metric that now battery should last for 12 hours is that metric. So if it is below that, even if it lasts for 11 hours instead of 12, the metric is broken. So now they are not hit that metric. So metrics are basically, in a sense, goals, right? And everything in the industry works on that, correct? Because once you set that goal, right, then basically, if I take that example and run with that example that you want to be a runner, then very simply put, right, you're going to say that if I want to become a runner, and in this case, let's say I want to have a speed of 6 minutes per mile or per kilometer or whatever, right? That drives all the other things I do, and I start measuring a lot of things to be able to know whether I'm hitting that goal or not, which is called a metric. So in this case, metric, or in another word, it's called KPI, key performance indicator. So KPI, which the word industry uses, is key performance indicator, right? So only when I set that goal, right? So in the industry, companies set up goals for everything, right? From the organization level to the department level to the team level to the individual level. Everything in the industry works on what they call as metrics or goals, right? And they're all objective numerical metrics. And to be able to hit that metric, there are many other things I need to measure, right? Those are called measurements. So, which is why we are the topic is about metrics and measurements. So, in this example, right, to be able to hit that 6 minute per mile, which is my metric, right, I will have to do 10 push-ups. I do 10 push-ups, 2 reps. 65% calories I will eat, so on and so I'll keep measuring how much I'm eating, how much I'm running, how much I'm drinking, so on and so forth. But all those measurements are going to contribute to that goal of finally be able to hit 6 minutes per mile, right? Which is my metric. That's what I'm going to go after, right? So this the another term you see here, right, is OKR, which was a term actually which was coined by Google, right, where they said OKR is objective and key results. So these are terms used in some of the industries where OKR was initially coined by Google. So what they say is that at an individual level, at a team level, at a department level, you need to hit your OKRs. But finally, all those are going to contribute to that metric, right? Because individual level. So for example, right, if you think about, let's say about your college, right? So at a college level, right, let's say their metric is that 100 students, right, should get shortlisted, and or X number of students should get shortlisted in Y number of companies, and number of students who should get jobs. Now, that's the metric. They'll put a number, right? During your interview season, they are going to say that we want to place at least 50% or 75% of our students should be placed in companies. That is the metric they set up for themselves. Now, for doing that, various measurements they do. They are going to say, okay, if my 75 students have to be placed, at least 50 companies have to come on campus, right? At least students have to get this much GPA. At least they have to write this many papers. So all these are measurements they'll keep doing, but it's all going towards that goal, right? Or that metric of saying how many students finally need to get placed in the college. So colleges do that, companies do that, and unfortunately, right, very few people, very few engineers who are getting out understand this, and they get out and they start working and they say, oh, I'm working very hard, I'm very good with people, I'm a good team member. But all these are subjective, unproven things. So in your mind, everything should be measurable. Only then you can actually prove to somebody that you're doing a good job, right? So you need to get into the habit of measuring everything and understand those measurements are going towards what goal or what metric for the company or for your team or for yourself, right? So that is the importance of metrics and measurements. And as you guys are getting into the world of AI, right? What is happening today, right? As you get into the world of AI today, every company is measuring efficiency. They are saying, okay, is a person more productive or AI is more productive? So how are they measuring that? They are actually saying how long it takes. So their goal is to get a product out or write a code in this much time or write a code with this much quality. So they are putting metrics around those. And they are saying that if a machine can achieve that, right, then I don't know what if this person has to do something more than the machine. So they are measuring that continuously to know that if the metric is getting better done by the AI engine or it is getting done by people or do we need both? Correct. So if you want to prove that I can do better continuously and I can use AI as a tool, but I can do better continuously, you have to measure how you are doing things, which contributes to that metric they're talking about. The world is all about data, guys. Now it's all about data, right? And we have to train our head, you have to train ourselves, right, to be able to always measure things. It's a very simple concept, but unfortunately, very few people do it, and it's natural why people don't like to measure, right? Because once you do measurements, then it's very difficult to argue, right? I mean, in my time, I many appraisals, right? At the end of the year, when we decide promotions, when we decide who to give more salary to, who to give a bonus to, right? I mean, the employees come, freshers come, and they say, "Oh, I work really hard day and night," right? And day and night has no meaning for me as a manager, right? So I'm going to say, okay, tell me this: how many features have you developed, and out of those features, how many problems, how many bugs did it have? Tell me the number, right? How many projects did you do on time versus you got delayed? Tell me the number, right? So I have already set up metrics and measurements for him. But if it doesn't come to that discussion ready with that, it's very easy for me to deny what he's saying. Yeah, you work hard. You think you work hard. I don't know, right? And only very few good engineers actually come with this data ready with them. That I wrote 10 features and my the bug density, the number of bugs in my features in production are less than 1%, less than 0.5%, right? Only then you can actually say that how I'm improving over time continuously. Why I believe that I hit my metric. Here are the measurements I'm doing, and I'm hitting my metric, right? That's how important it is. And it's a very simple concept, right? We use that in day-to-day life. I mean, today when you pass out of college, you'll have a GPA. What is GPA, right? GPA is a measurement. You might have set a metric for yourself saying I should hit 9.0. That's your metric. Now each subject you're going to get marks, and each subject, that measurement is going to contribute towards that metric. So now it's not enough for you to say that I did really well in 3 subjects, I didn't do well in 2. So the one I did well in 3, great, but finally your metric didn't get hit. If you don't get a 9.0 GPA or 8.0, whatever metric you have set yourself, right? Then then actually the project has failed in a sense, right? And same thing we do in companies. Somebody decide to release a project or a product or a feature, right? Everything we set metrics, and each team has to count. So what we are going to learn today is how does that work? How does that happen? What kind of metrics companies set up? And this knowledge is going to help you tremendously when you go for your interviews, when you start working. So that's how companies or managers are going to think. Your CEO is going to think. That's how important it is. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure that we understand the difference between metrics and measurements with this simple example, and we are just now going to carry forward this concept all the way into how companies work, how they use it. Yeah. Is this point clear? If it is clear, I don't know. Today I'm getting very few thumbs up. Maybe people are not. I mean, they're not there, paying attention, not paying attention. But believe me, guys, this is a topic which is going to make the difference for you. Like all topics, but this one, right? When you go for your interviews, when you go for talking to anybody from the industry, right? They are going to be very impressed if you understand these concepts and you talk in numbers. More you talk in numbers, more you have this concept, the more impressed they're going to be with you. Yeah. So is this clear? Give me a thumbs up if this is clear. That's the base concept of metrics versus measurements. Yeah. Is this clear? Yeah. Can somebody give me a thumbs up? Is the concept clear, guys? Yeah, Mithila? Thanks. Right. So now, with that said, Correct. So let's go get into the topic. So what I've been saying, right? I mean, what cannot be measured cannot be fixed. You cannot fix anything until you know that is broken, and the only way you know it is broken, right, is when you measured something. Right? It used to be this number, now it is this, right? So if if there's a pressure pump, and if the pressure is supposed to be this X and now it is 1/2 of X, then I know that it is broken, so I can fix it. So just like that, whatever cannot be measured cannot be fixed. Very difficult, right? And similarly, on the same tune, what is not measured, that's what I think. What is not measured is many a time not real, right? Because it's words about hard. I did this, I did that, I went there, I actually achieved this, I achieved that. Without numbers to support it, it's not real, right? So remember these two things, and keep that in your head, that if I'm arguing about something, if I'm trying to convince somebody about something, if I'm not supporting it by numbers, it is not real. It won't be believed. Okay. So now let's do a simple case study. Okay. So the very simple case study, so there is a company called Electronova. Okay. You can read it also, but I'll walk you through it. There's a company called Electronova, Delhi-based electronics company, and that has been designing, manufacturing, selling consumer electronics. Consumer electronics means like music players or DVD players, or what are televisions, projectors, so on and so forth, right? Just typical consumer electronics like we have in India. We have Boat, or we have Sony, Panasonic, those kind of company, right? And they have been experiencing, they're doing really well. Last 8-10, they have been around for 10 years, just like Boat, right? So have you guys heard about Boat, this company Boat in India? Have you heard about this company, Boat? They make these headphones, and they make the speakers, Bluetooth speakers, and so many things. Have you guys heard about Boat? It's a very similar company to that. If you have heard about Boat, give me a yes or a thumbs up. I'm wondering. Yeah, send reactions. Okay. So have you guys heard about Boat? This company called Boat, nobody has. So it's a company which again is not very old, but they have been doing quite well. I mean, they manufacture affordable consumer electronics, right? So let's say that this company basically has been growing very healthily last 10 years, and they are basically doing quite well in both revenue, but over 8 years, but they have been around for 10 years. But now in the recent last 2 years, they have been discounting their products a lot. I mean, like you see on Amazon, there is a $1 billion sale, or on Flipkart, there are sales. So they have been participating in sales a lot, and they've been discounting their products a lot, right? And why are they doing that? Because they want to sell more, right? They want to increase their revenue. They want to gain market share. So they're basically trying to sell a lot of their products, right? So year on year, right? Their revenue. Revenue means, if I sell 10, so let's say I'm selling 10, let's say headphones, and each headphone costs, let's say, 1,000 rupees, earphone or headphone, then I'm making 10,000. That is called revenue, right? So more I sell, more revenue I make, right? But their profits have been going down. Very simple, right? Profits mean that if I'm selling something for 1,000 rupees, I have to make it. Finally, my cost of making it should be less than 1,000 rupees. Only then I can make a profit, right? But what they're seeing, what Electronova has been seeing, is that their profits have been consistently going down. Revenue has been going up. So they are selling more and more and more, but profits have been going down over time, right? And they also seen that over time, their gross profit margin is going down. Now it has come down from 40% all the way to 10%. What does that mean? That when they used to sell first, some years back, for 1,000 rupees product, they used to make 400 rupees profit. But over time, over last 2 years, now it is only they're making only 100 rupees. They used to make 400 rupees, let's say, on every earphone, headphone, but now they're making only 100. So their profits have been going down, right? And they also seen their customer service costs go up. So these are just the things which the company is observing, right? That the revenue has been going up very well. They're selling more and more and more, but their profits have been going down, and their customer service costs have been going up. Yeah, that's what they're observing. Correct? Is this case study clear? Very simple, right? any company you can take out there, they must be doing this and measuring these things all the time, right? Or how is their revenue doing? How is their profits doing? Ideally, you want your revenue to go up and your profits to go up also, and you want your customer service cost to keep going down. That's ideal. But in Electronova's case, one thing is going up, which is revenue, but profits are coming down and customer service costs are also going up, right? Yeah. So is this understood? Give me a thumbs up if you understood this simple case study. Give me a thumbs up if you understood it. Yeah, Kushbu or anybody else who has been responding, have you guys understood the case study? Very simple to understand. If not, then I can explain. If there, this is very simple, but I just want to make sure because we are going to use this case study for the whole topic now, right? So is this understood? Okay. So now, great. So now, with that said, so how can we start analyzing, right? So how can we start analyzing the data at Electronova? So there has to be some technique, right? There are multiple techniques, and these are called critical thinking technique. Because if I'm the CEO of Electronova, if I'm the owner of Electronova, and I see these numbers, right, and I see this revenue that I'm selling more and more, but my profits keep going down, and my customer service costs keep going down, right? So now I want to understand what is going on here, right? How can we start analyzing the data, right, at Electronova using some critical things? So these are called critical thinking techniques, right? Where I have to start analyzing this. These numbers are worrying for me. So I'm going to ask myself a question that, oh, okay, my revenue is going up, but my profitability is going down. Is that okay? Is it okay to keep growing? Because revenue going up means more and more people are buying my product. So I'm gaining more and more what they call as market share, right? I'm getting more and more money because I actually am selling more and more. But wait a second. But I'm actually, my profits are going down. So is that okay to gain market share, to gain more and more customers at the cost of low profits, right? Can we use some critical thinking model? So what is critical thinking model? It means that is there a way to analyze this question which the CEO is asking his company, that is it okay to keep growing the revenue, right, at the cost of profits? Is that okay? Now, in this case, as you can imagine, right, what is the metric? The metric they have set up is revenue, that my revenue has to go up X% year on year. So if you look at this, right, they would have set up a metric saying while they're growing at 8% in year 9, at 6% in year 10. So that number they're setting for every year. As the company is growing, they're setting up a number saying that I should at least hit this much revenue. But clearly, on the profit, they're missing their metric. They're missing their metric because they want to make profit. They want to keep increasing the profits. But as they're measuring it, they're seeing that our profits are decreasing. So their metric, so the key metric they're using is revenue and profits, right? And now various things they need to measure to see what is happening here. Why is my profit going down? My revenue is going up. So these are called metrics which they want to hit. But how do I now analyze? What measurements do I look at to know why this is happening? Right? So now in this case, right, the question the CEO is asking is it okay to grow revenue at the cost of profits? Is that okay? Right? I mean, you know, there are a lot of companies which do that as a strategy. So, I mean, you may be aware that, for example, Flipkart or Amazon, after all these years, are still not profitable in India, right? They're still not making money. They're selling a lot. Their revenue keeps going up, but their profits, they are not yet profitable. They're still negative. So what they are saying is, my profits, my losses have to reduce. They're not still profitable. But as they're okay to the question the Electronova CEO is asking, right? If this was the question asked by the Flipkart CEO, he was saying it's okay if I don't get profits, but I can keep growing revenue. Those metrics, I will only focus on the revenue metric. I have to keep growing that. But my profit metric, I'm okay. But that is Flipkart's strategy, right? In Electronova's case, they don't know. They actually want their profits to grow. So how do you analyze this problem? So we are going to use a technique, right? It's called a critical thinking technique. Because to analyze anything, right, there has to be some way to do it, right? So what we are going to use, so let's use something called second order thinking. It's a very interesting technique guys use in the industry. It's called second order thinking. What is second order thinking, right? Second order thinking is a very simple mental model, and I can explain this really well by using a very simple example, right? So let's take chess, right? All of you, all of you would know chess. You may not have played it, but all of you know chess. You have seen people play it, right? In chess, this second order thinking mental model is used a lot, right? Because why? The great good chess players, what they do, so the when they move a when they move something, right, let's say they do the first move, right, that is first order thinking, that I'm going to move my king here or my queen there or my rook here, so on and so forth, right? That is first order. But in their head they're calculating the second order impact, that if I do this he will do that, then I'll do this, then he will do that. So will I finally, is the what is the impact of that one move on the rest of my players, right? So actually, this mental model is used a lot by chess players, but they cannot just say, "I'll do this. I'll wait to see what this other guy is going to do, and then I will decide." They actually do this, and in their head, they're calculating continuously that what is the second order impact of that one move I'm making. So very similarly, the same mental model is used in the industry, because what every action I take, right, there are things which are going to happen later which I need to be aware of to be able to analyze it. So in this case, for example, if I just say that let me just grow revenue at the cost of profits, I'll just grow my revenue at the cost of profits. I don't care. Now you might one day find out that a company is in big trouble. So instead of just waiting for something to happen and say that if I just keep hitting my metric, my revenue metric, but not even care about the profit metric, let me see what happens later, right? No, that's not correct. So you use this second order thinking mental model, right? So what is the kind of second order thinking? If I focus on revenue through discount, because clearly my profits are going down because I'm discounting my products, right? I used to sell a product for 1,000 rupees. I used to make 400 rupees, right? Clearly now I'm making 100. So what must be happening is I must be giving deep discounts and selling my product now for 700 rupees, right? Or I might be over time continuously discounting my product. So you see a lot of this when you go out and you see sales, right? And you see 50% discount, 80% discount. Well, they have to do this to figure out, okay, is that okay to do it? How long can I do this? So what can be the impact of that? That is called second order thinking. So in this case, what is happening, right? When I actually focus on revenue, what can happen, right? What will happen is I have to pressure, there will be a lot of pressure on reducing the cost of making it, right? Because why? Because as I keep giving discounts and increasing my revenue, because people are only buying it because I'm giving big discounts. Now what can happen is the company will put pressure saying that, oh, you used to manufacture this Bluetooth earphone or this television or whatever, right, at X cost. Now reduce the cost. Then I'm going to keep doing discounts. So the second order impact can be there will be a lot of pressure on the engineering team to reduce their cost, right? And that can have other impacts, right? Because when I try to reduce cost and if I don't do it properly, the impact can be on the quality of the product. So that is what the second order impact can be. What will happen next? The reduced profit margins per unit, because as I'm going down, as my profits are going down per unit, there can be a damage to brand perception also, because all of a sudden a company is discounting. So if I do too many discounts, the people will keep saying, oh, they are selling cheap stuff. They're not confident about their quality, or they can't compete in the market with the higher brands. So they can keep giving discounts. So there can be a problem with what they call as brand perception. What does that mean? They can say, oh, you used to sell for 1,000, you keep giving discounts and keep selling but I'll buy it because it's cheap. But now after some time, people will start thinking they only make cheap products. That happens. That is called brand perception, right? And that can have a lot of problems, because now you'll have less loyal. They're going to attraction of price sensitive, less loyal customers, right? Because what will happen now? I'm going to get people to buy my products only and only because they're cheap, not because they're good. And that is what happens eventually. That can happen. See, second order doesn't mean that it will definitely happen, but possibly this can happen, right? And why are we doing the second order thinking? Because the CEO is saying, is it a good idea to increase profits while my increase revenue while my profits are going down? Is that a good idea? That is the question he's asking. So the engineers and the salespeople, everybody has to come together and figure out what can be the impact of this. So these are the kind of things they have come up with, right? That before I used to sell to premium customers who thought we were making damn good products. We are competing with the best in the market, but maybe not. Maybe now they're only worried about they're only getting to people who are saying I want to buy cheap stuff. Which is why, if you notice, right, Apple, right, for the longest time, their strategy to compete with Android was not to give deep discounts. They used to compete on feature, function, and how better their product is. They could also given discounts, and Apple would have been, everybody would have had an Apple phone, right? But they did not, because they don't want the perception of Apple phone to become saying anybody can buy Apple phone because it's cheap, right? And this has happened to some Android brands where they used to be very good before, but now they just keep discounting, giving a lot of these things continuously. So now you think, oh, okay, they are okay. They're there. So tomorrow, if they make an expensive product, I'll not buy. But no, they only make cheap stuff. That could be the problem, right? Or increased cost with, and now the other problem is that there is an increased cost with customer support, right? Because why? That one of the second order thinking is that as you reduce your cost, right, and you may cut corners in quality. You may cut corners just to make sure that you are basically somehow generating a profit, and that can result in people not liking your product, and they may start returning the product. Maybe that is the reason. One of the other problems the CEO has observed is the customer service costs are going up. So it could have happened that way. So I need to measure all these things, right? So the metric I'm saying is I want to become profitable. My revenue metric is doing really well, it is going up, but my profit metric is doing bad, it is going down. But now to analyze this, I need to do a lot of measurements. To do those measurements, I'd use this second order thinking mental model and say that what all do I need to measure? What all areas? So I can measure the cost of goods sold. Have they been going down, and what is the impact of my cost of goods sold going down? Where am I reducing the cost? Am I reducing the cost and by doing that my quality is going down? So I'll measure that. Reduce profit margin per unit. So I'll measure whether every product of mine, right, is my profit is going down or not. See, these are called measurements. So the second order thinking model has told me what to measure to know whether that metric I'm talking about is getting hit or not, which means that if my revenue is going up and my profit is going down, to know the reasons for that, I will probably need to collect data around these things. I'll check whether the kind of customers who are buying it, are they the customers I used to have 5 years back, or are there new type of customers who are buying it? I have all that data now. I will measure brand perception. I will do a market survey and ask people, do you see Electronova's products as premium products, or do you consider them as cheap products? These are called measurements. And those measurements are going to tell me the reason why my metric is doing good or bad. Okay? Is this point clear, guys? Then we'll go into the details of this now. But this concept of how do I find out what to measure? How do I even find out what to measure, right? I can't keep measuring everything. That will be a lot of work. So the second order thinking model is telling me that to be able to know whether increasing revenue through decreasing profit is a good idea or not, I need to see the impact of that. These are the potential 5 impacts. I need to do measurements around those. I need to collect data around those. And that data will hopefully tell me the story, whether it's a good idea to keep increasing revenue, but decreasing profits are okay. Right? Is this point clear? Give me a thumbs up if the point is clear. If this point is clear, just give me a thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. Now, so clearly the second order thinking does point to some major issues for the future, right? Because if I start measuring the data, right, and what again, this is we are the topic is metrics and measurements, right? So if I do the measurements for all of these, right, and if the measurements tell me that as an example, right, if I see that my attraction of price sensitive customers, if I see that the kind of customers who used to buy from me are not coming back again, they're not coming back to buy my products anymore. There are new type of customers who are just coming, buying because it's cheap and going away. That tells me that there is an impact. That measurement is going to tell me that maybe my strategy is not good, right? If I see that my cost for returns and customer support is going up, before it used to be low, but now it is high, that tells me something. It tells me that that measurement is telling me that my metric is getting impacted negatively, right? Now, with that said, I don't want to ignore this, right? And I want to analyze this effectively. So that is that. So what questions would come to your mind, right, to analyze this issue? How would you start analyzing? I did the second order thinking, right? I did the second order thinking. But now one of the things, guys, so one of the things we are doing is we did critical thinking, right? And this is something which is extremely valued in the industry. So even when you go for your interviews, they're going to ask you such open-ended questions. And they're going to see whether you can think in a certain way, right? More and more, we keep at Satkam, we keep telling you guys the jobs where you're going to be told, develop this program, write this program, do this test, those jobs are going away now. They only want thinkers. You can ask your seniors who are trying to find jobs right now. They only want thinkers now. And you have to learn this because they're going to see how you think. So that critical thinking model was like, oh, okay, you narrowed down the problem now. But then what questions do you come to your mind now to analyze them? So this is called curiosity and inquisitiveness. That what thing, now I can't just start asking questions. What kind of questions do I ask to understand this problem? Because if you don't ask, how will you know what data to collect, what to measure, right? Because we established, guys, we already established that there is a problem because this first order effect of discounting products and to increasing revenue at the cost of profits does have second order problems. These are the second order thinking problems. These are potentially 5 problems. Now, I have decided as a CEO that I don't want to ignore those problems. My metric is getting impacted negatively. My profit metric is getting impacted negatively. While my revenue metric is going up, one of my metric is going down. So I have to analyze. So how do I analyze now? What questions come to your mind when you want to analyze this problem? What kind of questions, right? Any thought? What kind of questions? You can type them. Yeah, any questions come to your mind? So let's say do this, right? So the way the technique I'll use for this, right? Just like we use the critical thinking technique, actually you can train yourself to ask good questions. Because one of the things, again, unlike in college, right, where you are told to answer everything, in industry, you're asked to question. Without questioning, how do you get to the solution, right? So if I want to do that, I will basically in my head first categorize the questions. I'll create categories. So like categories like this, right? So I'll say, okay, 1 second. What are the things which are giving the revenue, right? What kind of products are actually bringing the most revenue to me? Because I make many products. I make headphones, I make televisions, so I'll ask a question saying, okay, where all do we see maximum revenue is coming from, right? Then I'm going to say, okay, but we are saying that our revenue is going up, right? Though I'm discounting. So how am I pricing this? So if I was selling a television for 30,000 rupees, when I started selling it at, let's say, and do I sell it for 25,000 now or 20,000? And because of that, are more people buying it? So what is my pricing strategy? How am I pricing this? If I was pricing the television at 30,000, now I'm pricing it at 25,000, 20,000, right? Why? What is my strategy behind that? I can ask that kind of a question, right? Then the other question I'll ask is cost, right? We are definitely seeing the profits going down, which is my cost of making it. Is it the same or is it changing? So I'm asking the question, what is the primary reason for decreased profit margin? Is it only because I'm actually discounting the products, or the other reason why my profits may be going down is because my costs may be going up for whatever reason. So I'm asking that question. What is the primary reason for the decreasing profit margin? Is it because my costs are going up, or is it because my revenue or my price is coming down, or is it both? Right? Then I'll ask a question saying that are there other factors in the market because which I have one time. So for example, it could happen. So I have big one-time expense because I had to set up a new factory, or I had to buy new machines, or some big expense because of which I had to basically take that cost and add it. Is that the reason? What happened? Or if I'm discounting something, has competition caused that impact? Has something happened because my competition is discounting it? I have to discount it. Is that the reason? Are there factors which are causing this? And if that is the case, what are the key performance indicators beyond revenue and profit? What should I focus on? So that that indicator will help me improve this metric of profitability. What should I focus on? What are the other measurements I should do? Right? And yes, do we already have a plan to reduce cost or increase price? So there are only two ways I can increase my profits. Right? I increase my price or I decrease my cost. There are only two ways to do this. Are we doing both? Are we doing one? So guys, this actually is a very simple way to categorize in your head. So if somebody says, do you have any question? We sometimes get confused, right? Don't get confused. Use this simple technique. Step back and say, okay, the question was about profit, revenue and profits. So what all can I ask? So before you go into the actual question, create categories of question. Like the 4 categories in my head I created were revenue, cost, external factors, and future. And there's no rule here what those categories are, right? That you learn over time. But it's a good thing to do where you first create a category and under that category ask a question. So that way you know, okay, I have a structure to my thinking. And this is a very valued thing in the industry. Because we do meetings like this with our engineers and we ask them, oh, do you have any questions like I'm asking here? And the people who keep quiet are the engineers. I'll say they're useless. They don't have any interest. They don't have any curiosity. So they will not get the opportunities. Whereas engineers who are able to think and just even if they think and categorize and ask and say, okay, good line of thinking. Good way they're thinking. Right? So this is a technique I'm telling you to be able to ask good questions. And you can take your time. You can take a pen and paper and write them. You don't have to immediately start asking questions. If I say, do you have any questions? You don't have to ask immediately. You can take your time. You can say, give me 2 minutes. Let me think. You can note down the question, but the technique you can use is create categories of questions and then write the questions under that. Okay. So that is what is called categorize and ask. So this is the so you with this in this case I'm asking this question. Now what do I do with these questions? I will use them to be able to analyze and say that what are the things I should measure, right, for this business metric of revenue and profit. And in this case I can do things like I want to find out cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold means what? It's very simple. Cost of goods sold means how much money I'm spending to build something, right? That is cost of goods sold. It includes my cost of making, cost of marketing, cost of distribution, all the costs included. So in our example, if I'm selling something for 1,000 rupees and 600 is my cost, right? I want to see whether my costs have been going up, remaining the same, or going down. So I will see whether my cost of goods sold, what has happened to them. These are called measurements, metrics and measurements, right? So let's use the business metric for objective analysis. Another thing I look at is what they call as a very interesting concept, guys, called customer acquisition cost. You know what that means? So for example, if you go on Flipkart and you see a sale, right? So what happens? You will go on Flipkart because you see an ad somewhere, right? There's an ad, you're browsing somewhere, you're watching a movie, or you're seeing a television, you see an ad, right? For each ad, the company is spending a lot of money. So to get me as a customer, how much money are they spending? Because if, for example, I say I'm going to sell this to you for 1,000 rupees, right? And my cost of goods is 600 rupees. But just to get you to the store, or to the online portal to buy it, I'm spending 100 rupees more to show you that ad, or getting you to just come, then that 100 rupees gets added and my margin or my profit goes even lower. So this customer acquisition cost is a very, very important concept in the industry. That means for getting each customer to the door of my store or to my e-commerce store or my physical store, how much money I'm spending to get him there. The lesser I use, so that's why the brand concept is very important. If my brand is, so today, for example, if Amul launches something or Tata launches something, their customer acquisition cost is not much because their brand is so well known that even if they say I'm launching a new product, we'll say, okay, it's made by Tata or it's made by Amul. I'm going to go and take a look. I'll buy it. So their customer acquisition cost is very low. But let's say I'm trying to compete with Amul and I come up with a brand for selling butter, and that brand is called Abhijit Butter. Nobody knows anything about it. So I'm going to have to advertise a lot, tell people how good I am. So for everything, I'm spending money for each customer coming in. If I'm spending that much money, right, I have to say that for getting this customer to the door to buy this Abhijit butter, right, I have to spend this much money. So I have to add that to my cost of goods. And then I'll say, oh, my margin, now my profits are even lower. Over time, I want to reduce my cost of customer acquisition cost, right? Average selling price also very, very important. Why? Because see, in our example, my metric is, the metric I'm going after is revenue and profits, or revenue and I want to increase my revenue, but I also want to increase my profit. So now clearly, you know, if my cost of goods sold is remaining the same, right, then it's okay. But if it is going up, then that is eating into my profits. So I need to reduce that, right? If my cost of goods sold is going down, then I will still not take it just like that. I'll say, okay, at what cost? If it is going down because I'm compromising on quality or I'm compromising on something, then I'll have to do that measurement also, right? Because every piece of data is telling a story, guys. Every piece of data is telling a story. All data tell a story. You just have to look at it and tell that story, right? Similarly, average selling price. Why is that important? That is very important, guys, because if I'm selling televisions and I'm selling headphones and I'm selling earphones, I'm selling other things, I want to see whether the discounts they're giving, where is they're hurting me where. So I might say the average selling price for televisions have not gone down too much. So I'm not giving very big discounts on television, but I'm seeing that the average selling price of my headphones has gone down a lot. So that is that area where I'm discounting them too much, causing a big impact my overall company margins or my company profit. So I'll focus on that problem. I'll leave television alone. But television, that my average selling price has not gone down. Before, when I said the profits are going down and the revenue is going up, if I don't look at this kind of data, I'll go after every product and say, oh, why are you discounting them? Why is the cost so high? But that is not good. Then I can't improve, right? So I have to look at these measurements to know which of these are causing that impact on my metric, which is my revenue metric and my profit metric. So clearly in this case, the average selling price is important because I can see that deep discounts are not being given on televisions. So the sales people who are on televisions they're doing okay. But something is wrong with the people who are selling my headphones. They're giving very big discounts unnecessarily, maybe, or maybe that's a strategy. But I can focus on that now to know, because it is impacting my overall profits of the company, right? So now, as I said here, there are many, many such things. But if you notice in this case study, right, let me recap the case study. We started with Electronova, where they are saying they're a 10-year-old company and they have been doing very well. But last 2 years, their revenue has been going up, which is great, but their profits have been going down. That's where we started. So the two metrics they were looking at are the revenue growth or dip and profit growth or dip. Those are the metrics. And the measurement, so we use second order thinking to say, wait a second, is that a good idea? Is it good that my revenue keeps going up but my profit keeps going down? So we use this critical thinking model to know the reasons. And we came out with 5 potential reasons what such a strategy can do. And for each one of them, I need to measure something to know whether what is over time these measurements are telling me, what story are they telling me, and then I will know how it is impacting the metrics. So in this case, for example, cost of goods sold, if they're steady, right, then I know that the problem is only with the discounts. But if the cost of good has gone up, I have two problems. I'm not only giving discounts, but also my costs are going up. If my cost of goods sold is going down, even then I need to do more measurements to know how is it going down, at what am I compromising, or is it just efficiency I'm building in? I need to know that. Same with customer acquisition cost. If my acquisition cost is going up, it will directly hit my profits. Same thing with average selling price. I can narrow it down and say television is not the problem area, headphones is the problem area. So I can focus. So this is what industry does. Your role as an engineer, regardless of what you're doing, it is to correlate data and find out reasons so that you can focus on the right problem. So that's why metrics are driven by different measurements. And as a good engineer, what you'll have to do continuously is know the metric you're targeting and keep doing various measurements to know which measurement is having an impact, positive or negative, on this metric. And the engineers who can do this are the most valuable in the company. Most valuable. Okay. So now I'm just summarizing, right? Why are we doing all this? I'm just going to summarize what I have been explaining so long, right? Metrics and measurements, right, provide invaluable insights into the business performance. We just saw that, right? Revenue going up, profit going down. These are insights into how you are performing as a company. We can proactively make changes, right? Because the CEO is observing this trend. He's not saying, oh, great, my revenue is increasing, I'm happy. But at what cost? My profits are going down. So now proactively he's saying, guys, let's find out the reasons and do something about it. So we use second order thinking to find out the reasons, and then we did many measurements and speak with data. Unless you measure, you don't know what to infer, and you cannot make a decision. I cannot tell the television guys to start reducing cost because they are not doing badly. Their average price is the same, so they are fine. I need to focus on the headphones guys. Somehow they are giving deep discounts and they're hurting the profitability of my company. I need to know why. What is happening here? So data will tell me, and then I can make decisions on what to focus on. Right? So that is the importance of metrics and the various measurements. So that is why when you write code, right, tomorrow when you join any company and you're going to write code or test, one of the important things you'll do is put things in a code where you continuously measure everything. So let's say you're working in an e-commerce company. You're going to measure how many customers are coming, how many are buying, how many just came and didn't buy, what are they buying, what is the average price they're buying at, what is the delivery time, what is the review, what is their feedback. Everything is measured. Even when you go into physical company, let's say you're working for an auto company, you'll notice that when you go to a showroom, they'll ask you a lot of questions, ask you to do a survey, have you fill out a form. They're trying to get a lot of information from you so that they can measure whether it's a happy customer or an unhappy customer. Right? So you have to speak with data. This world you're entering, guys, all about data. If you speak without data, you are not useful to the company. You'll not get a job. You'll not be able to keep your job. You'll not be able to progress in your job. I 100% can tell you that. Because I'm part of the industry where we are hiring people daily. Okay? So that is the importance of metrics and measurement. But now the question you may be asking is, wait a second, but I'm an engineer. I'm going to be making the product. I'm not in sales. I don't know revenue. I don't know profit. I'm going to keep making the product. How does that apply to me? Right? Are any of these metrics at a company level applying to me as an engineer working in designing, developing, testing the product? Because most of you are going to join companies or departments who are going to actually build the product. Some of you may go in sales, but most of you will be on building the product or building the service, right? So will take us another problem. One of the things is saying increased costs associated with returns and customer support. Some reason while I'm doing this, while my revenue is going up, profits are going down. One disturbing trend I'm seeing is my customer service costs are going up, customer support costs, and people are returning my product, even worse. The number of people returning my product because it's not a good product has increased. Why? I want to know why. Because as you can clearly see, guys, this is going to directly impact my profits. Because customer service cost going up, I have to account for that cost as a product cost. Because product cost is not just to make the product, right? It is making the product, selling the product, and supporting the product. All three together is the cost of the product. So clearly, this is going to have a problem, because not only customers are returning sometimes, but my overall cost to support them is also going up. Not good. So how can the product and engineering teams do the same exercise that like the business teams did? The exercise we did a minute back, were the sales team and the marketing team doing that exercise, saying, I'll do first order thinking, saying, is it even a good strategy to increase revenue and decrease profit at decrease profit? So they did that critical thinking model of second order thinking, looked at cost of goods sold, so on. They did an analysis to reach some decisions. Now it is the turn of the product team. Can we do this with the product team? Let's see. So what metrics would the product and engineering team be using for this analysis? Any thoughts? So you know the problem statement, right? The problem statement is that I have the metric which I'm measuring. The company is measuring is customer support, which is cost, which is going up. That's a metric. That if my customer support cost is keeps going up, that is the metric I track at a company level. And I also track number of returns as a percentage of goods sold. So let's say I sell 1,000 televisions or 1,000 Bluetooth speakers. How many have been returned by the customer saying that this is broken, not working, and I'm within my 1 year warranty period, I want a replacement, right? So these are the metrics I'm tracking of support cost and returns. So as an engineering team now, as a part of the engineering team or the product team, if you are asked that, guys, do some measurements, do some analysis, like the sales team did for the problem of decreased profits, you guys do this for this now. So what questions will come to your mind? What data will you measure at all to solve this problem or to know where the problem lies? Right? How can I do the same exercise? What metrics? Any thoughts? What do you think you can measure? What data will you collect to solve this problem? Because the problem is big, guys. I mean, think about it, right? If I'm selling products, part of the products, if I see over time, so let's say you're in a company selling those Bluetooth headphones, and I can see that over time, more and more people are returning the headphones, right? Because they're not working. There's some problem. There's an issue. Who is going to bear that cost? The company has to bear that cost of the returned product. On top of that, my customer service costs are going up. So the people on the phone or email who are answering the customer, some reason they cost money, right? And their costs are going up. And that is directly eating into my profitability margin, right? So as I said, the company is measuring the metrics that in this use case or the case study they're doing is they're looking at the revenue and the trend of the revenue going up, going down. They're looking at profits if they're going up, going down. They're looking at customer service costs going up, going down, and they're looking at the returns as a percentage of total sold. So if I sell 1,000 units of the headphones, how many are getting returned back by the customer because they're broken within the warranty period? I'm measuring this. These are my metrics. How do I solve it? For that, I need to do some measurements, right? I have to. So now, what will I measure? What metrics would the product and engineering team be looking at for this analysis? What can it be? Any thoughts? Remember, you are going to join one such team, right? This is a real life example. You're going to join a company like Litronova. You may join a Samsung, or you may join a LG. You may join Boat. You may join any of these companies, right? And you will be asked this kind of problems. So now, if I want to do that, I can do some measurements now, right? So what are the reason a cost can increase? So something we can use is, because there is a term called CSAT. CSAT means customer satisfaction. Okay, so I'll type it here. It's a very common term in the industry, and you'll see this term getting used everywhere. This or sometimes NPS term is used. NPS means net promoter score. So, and this is not complex, guys. If you notice that if you're on a website or you're on, let's say you're going on Hotstar or Netflix or or Amazon or whatever, from time to time they're going to pop up, right? Something like how many stars. Or if you take a Uber or Ola, they'll say how many stars. So you'll put 1 star, 2 star, 3 star. So they're trying to measure how happy you are with what I'm providing you. That is called CSAT score. So the company says if I'm measuring out of 5, I should be always above 4. So most people should give me either a 4 or a 5. If I'm below 4, then I have a problem with CSAT, right? So I can look at that to see over time, customers are returning or the products, or my service costs are going up, which means they're calling my support people too much. So let me see over time whether my CSAT score has gone up or gone down. It will be very interesting if my CSAT score has gone up, which means customers are happy, but my support costs are going down, going up. That usually does not happen. Why would people be happy if their product is giving them so many problems? So I should see that reflected in that measurement of CSAT, right? Return rate percentage by failure mode. So what I can do to analyze is saying, yeah, this return is increasing. So out of 1,000 units I sold, 5 units have come back, 10 units have come back, 20 units have come back. Why? Let me look at them by failure mode. Why are they coming back? Is it a problem if I'm selling a television? Is it because there is a problem with the screen or with the sound or with what? So because I need to know the problem to solve the problem. Because in what I'm measuring, I want to measure these things. CSAT, return rate percentage, customer support, average ticket resolution time. What does that tell me? That when a customer is complaining about something, if he's complaining about how long does it take me to respond to that customer? If the customer calls and says, hey, I'm trying to plug your television and I'm trying to start my TV series on it, but it is not working and it is not a cable problem. It is seems to be a problem that now the customer service person is going to ask you some questions, but how long does it take for him to solve the problem? Because the more time he's on the call, the more money the company is spending. Because the more time he's on the call, the less customers he's attending to. So for per customer, my costs are going up now. And you will see this, like, for example, if you have Wi-Fi at home, right? If the Wi-Fi is not working, you file a ticket or you call some Airtel or Reliance or whoever to say, hey, my Wi-Fi is giving a problem. And many a times, the problem might be just your understanding, something you tell you to plug in, plug out. But the faster he solves the problem, the less cost of customer service. So I want to know that. So I'm saying customer service average ticket resolution time is another measurement I will do. Just like we did it for revenue and profits, and we did see cost of goods sold, so on and so forth. In this case, the reason this part of your case study is important is because you're going to be part of such a team who's going to be the product or engineering team. And the goal of showing you this is how you can impact the work you do impacts that metric at a company level of profits or revenue or whatever. So every work you do is impacting how the company is doing. Because as an engineer, when you join a company, you get so involved in your own work and you feel you're doing so well that, oh, I'm developing a product, I'm working hard, I'm writing code, I'm testing. But at the end of the day, the company is not doing well because some reason your profits are going down. And one of the reasons is the code you're writing is probably correct, but it has bugs. Functionally, it works, but it has too many issues. So now you're directly impacting my profits because the more issues there are, more products will be returned. More calls will come to my customer service. So that's why I want to measure that. So this is what I'm measuring, that to know whether there is an increase or decrease, right? There is an increase or decrease in my average customer ticket resolution time. And the other thing I want to see is return versus repair, right? Because when a product comes back, the worst thing that can happen is I have to replace the product. Then all that cost will be borne by me. So you have a Bluetooth speaker, headphone, you come take it to the company and say, oh, this service center, and say it is not working. It is within the warranty period. It tries to fix it. It doesn't get fixed. Now I have to give you a new piece. So the whole cost will be borne by me. This is the worst thing. Sometimes it can be repaired. Then that shows me there's a problem. But if I fix it in the next version of the speaker coming, Bluetooth headphone coming out, at least I can avoid that. So I want to know that. That's why I'm saying what percentage of the things which are coming back to me are return versus repair. And why? So again, guys, in the same example, these are called measurements. The metric I'm targeting is I want to reduce the customer service cost. The metric is customer service cost. I will look at a lot of these as measurements to help me improve that metric. Right? This again, the same thing like last time, this data tells me a story. As an example, if I see that my customer satisfaction is going down, it clearly shows me, yes, my customer service cost will go up. Because the more people are unhappy, they can keep calling my service and complaining. So now my cost will go up. If my return percentage is going up, right, by failure mode, then I know that there is a fundamental problem with the last release I did. So let me improve that. So these are the measurements, these are the data I will collect to be able to impact that metric I'm going after, which is reducing the customer service cost. So when you join a company, guys, most times what happens is the engineers never know. They never ask the question at a company level, what is the metric which is most important right now? Is it revenue? Is it profits? Is it both? Is it customer satisfaction? Is it customer service? All are important, but companies have specific things they focus on quarter by quarter, year on year. And you need to know that so that you know your work, what you are doing, which part of the metric am I impacting positively or negatively. And the engineers who know this work in that direction. They won't say, oh, I'm doing great work. Well, your great work is not even contributing to that metric. So what is the point? So you need to ask that question. Nobody's going to tell that to you. You should ask that question in any company you join, or you go for an interview, right? Ask them that question. So this year, what are the key metrics you are targeting? So if I join your company as an engineer, what is the area I should be focusing on most to be able to contribute to that metric? Right? Sometimes the metric can be, believe it or not, can be, I want to improve the security perception, which means I want to make sure that I want to measure whether the metric I'm using is if my products are considered most secure in the industry. Let's say my phone is considered most secure. That's the metric I'm targeting for this year. So that as an engineer, when I develop my product, I develop a feature, I'll know that the one thing I need to focus on a lot is making sure it is a highly secure feature. Because that will directly contribute to the score company is measuring when they take a survey saying, is my phone considered a very safe and secure phone? In another case, it can be all about revenue. I want to, one way or the other, I want to keep increasing my revenue. But I don't want to do it at a loss. So then I will know that the cost, engineering costs, I have to keep reducing. I have to become more efficient, because my company is going to keep giving discounts, but they can't keep losing money. So my costs have to come down now. So I have to contribute to the cost getting lower. So I'll do that measurement and show the company that how am I doing it. That is the importance, to know which metric I'm targeting or contributing to as an engineer, as a designer, as a tester, as an architect, as a salesperson, as a business development person, as a product person, right? So in this example, I'll do some problem solving by doing this kind of measurement. And what will I do with this data now? I'll take this data and do this simple exercise, right? In this case, right? I'll map all the reasons for the returns, right? Why are people returning the product? This is called a problem breakdown. So it's a very simple technique. Like remember today, we talked about a technique for critical thinking called second order thinking, where I talk about a first order impact, which is revenue going up, profit going down. That's my first order. Second order, I found out the reason. That's a critical thinking technique. Then we looked into a inquisitiveness or curiosity. I asked you how to ask questions, categorize, and then ask the questions. Similar to that, how do I do a problem break? The problem looks very big. I need to break it into smaller pieces to solve it. So this is a problem solving technique or a problem breakdown. You take the problem and then, I mean, we don't have time to do mind maps. We have learned mind maps in another topic, right? But what I'll do is in this case, map the reason. So I'm saying there are a lot of returns coming in. So what are the reason for the returns? Is it, if it is a headphone, is it because there is the sound quality has gone bad, or the wires are getting broken very fast, or is there some different problem with the material I'm using? What is the reason why customers are returning the product? right? Then I look at the density of the issue. What does that mean? Density means that how many customers. So let's say there are 3 reasons why they're returning the product. One reason is that over time my sound quality is not good. It is having disturbance. One reason. Second reason is while I'm using it, the wires are getting eroded very fast and they're breaking. That could be the second reason. Third reason is that when I use this phone, right, and even if it is getting exposed for even a little to moisture or water, it stops working. So let's say these are 3 reasons. So in this, what I'll do is I'll collect the data and say what is the density? How many? If 100 customers are returning the product, what percentage of the customer are returning it for problem 1 or problem 2 and problem 3? Because then I will know which is the biggest problem. It might be true that most customers are returning 90 out of 100 customers are returning it because there's a problem with the sound quality over time. 5 customers are returning it because there's a problem with the wires. 5 customers are returning it because there's a problem with moisture. So I know now that if I tackle the problem of sound quality over time, something is happening, then I'll solve 90% of the issues of returns. So I'll not go after everything, right? Break down the data. And why is frequency important? Because if I'm fixing things, they keep bringing it back, saying, "Oh, I get the product," and I say, "Okay, I notice the problem. I fix it. Now your sound quality will be good." He checks it. He goes. 2 days later, he comes back saying, "Arey, it was fixed, but it's not." Again, the problem has started. So then there is a fundamentally bigger problem in the way my product is. So I'll have to go to the engineering team. I look at the design, the material, the component I used. What is the problem? It might be a much bigger problem if the frequency is high, which means the number of times customers are coming back again and again and again and again with the same problem, which means I'm not able to repair it. So there could be a fundamental problem with the design itself, right? So in this problem solving technique, what I do is I do a mind map. So imagine in your head like a picture, right? The main problem is returns. What can be the reasons for the returns? I take all the reasons. Then in that I do 2 measurements. Density, which means how many times this problem has happened out of the total number of problems. If 1,000 people or 100 people have done returns, how many people returned it because there is a problem with the sound? How many people returned it because there is a problem with the wires? How many people returned it because there is a problem with the moisture? I'll measure that. Then I'll measure how many people keep coming back again and again, frequency of the problem, right? And this is going to narrow down that problem and say, oh, the problem seems to be now here are many scenarios, multiple scenarios here, right? Which could happen. So, for example, let's say the question, let's say there is a category I create, right? Why the people are doing this, and let's say in category A, 30%, right? So let before I go to this example, let me finish the last example, right? Last example is then I'll do that and I'll say it seems to be that most problem in the returns is actually the sound quality. But the good news there is once I fix it, they don't come back again. The frequency is not very high. So great. So now I know that the next release of the product I'll do, that is the proper product I need to prioritize. Even if the other 2 products which are 5%, get a little delayed, it's okay. This is what I need to tackle. So this is directly contributing to my support costs, thus my margins, my profits are lowering. Similar to that, let's say now the other problem I have my customer satisfaction. If you remember our problem statement, right? My customer satisfaction, which I'm measuring, saying how many people are happy with me. Are they giving me 4+ stars out of 5? Or are they giving me less number of stars? And I'm not, I could be, the problem could be that customer satisfaction is going down. Why? And that is directly contributing to my support cost going up. But why? So then in this technique, what I do is I can do it this way. Similar to the questions, I'll categorize, saying when the customer service tickets are coming in, what is the reason for the tickets? Why is my support cost going up? Why am I taking time to solve them? So I see that there is one category of tickets. Let's say this category A. This category is all about the sound, something to do with the sound. 30% of the total questions are around this, and it takes me less than 5 minutes to resolve it. So there is some problem, I quickly tell them to do something and it gets fixed. So just so that not to confuse with the same headphone, let's take the television example. Right? People are calling and saying, oh, when I plug in the television, my cable doesn't work. And you tell them, oh, okay, do this and you might have done that. Can you check this? And they check and get fixed. So less than 5 minutes. But for 5% of the problems, it takes me more than 1 day. That is huge. And for 15% of the issues, it takes me more than 30 minutes. That is also very high. For 30 minutes, the customer service person now is engaged just to solve one customer's problem. So if I look at this, right, what do you think I'll prioritize first? Right? What do you think I'll prioritize first? Right? Very simple, right? See, 30% of the problem. So let's say I get 1,000 tickets in customer service. See, customer is calling and asking, 1,000 customers are calling. 30% of those customers, right, are asking me some question around, let's say, the how to start my cable. It takes me very quickly, less than 5 minutes. Like in a minute, I do it. 5% are asking me some complicated problem, saying that, oh, I'm trying to do some casting on the TV or some complex thing. I'm not able to. Takes me 1 day to. I also, the customer service person doesn't know the answer, so I have to find the answer. And in category C, 15% of the issues taking more than 30 minutes. Let's say they are asking me a question about let's say something to do with the television sound, or something to do with the television connecting to Wi-Fi. Okay. Clearly, I will say, okay, I need to reduce the 30 minutes immediately. Because 15% is a very big number. So if I do the math of 15% multiplied by 30 minutes per, that number will be much higher than if I take 30% customers, multiply that by less than 5 minutes. So mathematically, though the 30% looks higher, the time spent will be lower, because I'll multiply that. If I have 100 customers, so we said 1,000 customers, or 300 customers are calling about this, and let's say it takes me less than 5 minutes. So let's take takes me 5 minutes. So then I'm spending how much? 300 multiplied by 5. So I'm spending 1,500 minutes to solve their problems. But let's say now 15%, so 150 customers, right, are calling, and I'm spending more than 30 minutes. So that is 4,500. Right? Because mathematically I have to make a decision, because it's measurements, right? The math may have gone wrong, by the way, here. But the point I'm trying to make is, I have to measure this, because I wouldn't want to attack the problem just because 30% looks very high. I don't want to attack the problem if the total impact on my metric, which is customer service resolution time, or my CSAT, is going down and my resolution time is going up. If I want to go after that, what do I go after? I'll have to make a decision. So if tomorrow my manager says, what will you focus on? I'm doing the measurements and making a decision based on the data. I'm just not going after saying, okay, let me go after where I see the most issues. No, but to resolve that issue, it's taking less than 5 minutes. So go after the one where the customer service is spending most time. So I'll go after problem C probably, if the math works out. Right? Similarly, there are issues they're calling about. This is about questions. They're now calling out issues. So in feature 1, 12% of issues, they're P2, which is not high severity. The cost of fixing is very low. Quickly I can fix them. And there's no return happening because of that. I can quickly fix it. They bring it to the service center, I can quickly fix it. Whereas 3% of the issues are very high severity and the return rate is high, 100%. 3% people are returning the products, and I have to bear all the costs. So here again, I'll calculate the cost. If 3% people are returning, then I will have to say that each headphone is costing me 600 rupees. That whole cost I have to bear, and I have to again give him the new product free. So now the same headphone, my cost has doubled. 1,200 rupees for one headphone. One got returned, and I have to give him a brand new one. So it's a very high cost I'm paying. So if I multiply that by 3%, if that number is high compared to 12% multiplied by the cost of fixing, which is very, very small, then I'll have to go after 3%. Though the number is less, the cost is very high. So if I don't do these measurements, naturally I'll go after the 12%. I'll say, oh, these are a lot of issues, let me go after them. But why metrics and measurements are critical? Because these measurements tell you a story. And here the story is that while 3% of the issues look small to me, the cost is extremely high, because the return rate is 100%. So when they come to my service center with that problem, 100% of the time I have to give them a replacement product. So now my cost of that same product has doubled. I have to give them free. The replacement is free. And in the first case, the story is that though 30%, I don't want to go after just the volume of issues. I want to go where I'm spending the most time. I'll calculate that and say, okay, as a manager, I'll tell my manager, wait a second, let's go after category C problems and feature 2, not feature 1 or category A or B. Then he'll be very impressed with you saying, okay, you know what measurements to focus on and you understand how these measurements are impacting the metric, which is my customer side, the metric of the customer service costs are going up and the resolution time for each ticket is going down, is also going up. Sorry. Those are the metrics, right? Because here, if you notice, I told you the metric is increased cost with returns and customers. My customer service costs are going up. And that is a problem I'm trying to analyze. So as an engineer now, if you do this analysis properly, you can directly impact the decision making and thus impact the customer service costs going down instead of going up. These are the engineers who become very valuable to a company. They get the reward, they get the jobs. Right? So that is the importance of metrics and measurements, right? Because as I said earlier, when you build any product, any feature, test anything, always think in numbers, guys. Because only with numbers you can prove something, right? So when you join a company, right, they're going to, so this is just summarizing, right? You are going to be measured by various things, that how fast are you developing a product, the velocity, how are you testing it, what is your coverage, how many customers are using your product, the feature you are developing, how many customers are actually using it, what is the defect, how many bugs in your code, right? How long does it take to fix the bug, how many times you're delivering something on time, right? These are the kind of measurements they're going to do to know whether you're a good engineer or not. But remember, these are outputs. These are just outputs. I'm just measuring. But truly, the outcome is the metric. Outcome is my product is selling more, it is making more money, my profits are increasing, my revenue is increasing. So if you are a good engineer, you'll always correlate and say, whatever work I'm doing, how is it impacting my company metric or my department metric or my team? So you start with the individual, you're part of a team. So your work has to impact the team metric. The team has to see whether it is impacting the department metric. A department has many teams. And the department has to make sure their metrics are impacting the company metric. So that's the ladder. So you go from a person to the team to the department to the company. And each metric and measurement you do has to impact the personal metric and measurements you are doing for yourself have to impact the team metrics. The team metrics have to impact the department metric. The department metric has to impact the company metric. It is not complicated, right? Let's say in our example, company metric is my profits. My profits have to increase, they're going down. That is the company metric. Now, departments, I told you, one of the department makes televisions, another department makes headphones. The one making television, they are saying that my metric, I'm not causing an impact to the profitability because my sales price has not come down and my costs are not gone up. But the headphone department, the one which making the headphones, they are seeing that their prices have come down where their costs have remained same or gone down. So now that metric is red, not good. So that metric is impacting the company metric negatively. So the department has to now figure out what can I do to reduce my cost so that even if I reduce my price, I'll still keep making profits. Now, let's say you're a part of the team in that department which makes those headphones, and you're a part of the team which is making one component, right, of that whole unit, of that whole headphones. Then you're going to say whether my component, my costs have gone up or down. How can I bring my cost down to contribute to that? Because their goal is to bring the cost down. And then at an individual level, you'll be challenged saying, hey, for that headphone, you're working on this piece. Can you figure out how to reduce cost? So now your measurement, whether you're doing it or not, will impact the team's goal of reducing their cost, which is going to impact the department goal of reducing cost, which is going to impact the company goal of increasing profits. That's the link. And very, very, very few people understand this. So you're an engineer working in a company, you never worry about how my individual work is impacting the company metrics. So which is why we use the terms output versus outcome. Output is what? I wrote n number of lines of code. I tested 1,000 test cases. I basically fixed my bugs in this much time. But yes, that those measurements are critical, but they're outputs. Outcome is after doing all of this, if my company profits are still going down, then what's the point? I need to do something differently now to make sure that I'm impacting that outcome, which is increase my ability to contribute, increasing the profits of the company. That is the link between output and outcome. So while outputs are to be measured, outcomes are what are supposed to be targeted. And believe me, guys, very, very, very few engineers know this or are told about this. So in any company I have worked in, or the people I'm working with today also, the engineers who understand outcomes and they can come with ideas how to impact that outcome, not just keep worrying out how many lines of code I'm writing, how much I'm testing. They actually look at that data, the metric data at the company level and the department level and the team level, and show me how they can contribute positively to that. They are the valuable engineers, right? That is a link between outcome and output. That is thus the metrics and measurements, which is our core topic. You will measure a lot of things, but our goal to use are to use those measurements to impact the metric. Similarly said, you will do a lot of outputs you'll measure, but your goal will be to impact the outcome, which is the metric. Okay, and you need to get into this habit. So when you're in college, right, what are you trying to aim for yourself, right? If you create an aim, you create a metric for yourself, right? Your metric is that I need to become the best, right? Or I need to make sure that I'm looked at as the best in let's say cyber security, right? Then the outcome is cyber security, best in cyber security, which is measurement is what? I need to give these 3 exams. In those 3 exams, I need to get above 80% or 90%, whatever that score is. That is the outcome, which is going to tell you the outcome is that I'll become a cyber security expert. So when I go out from college, I can actually say that my interest is cyber security and I've given these 3 exams, I've done well, I deserve a job. And the output for that, various things. There will be 10 topics you have to learn. You have to measure the score in each one. You have to do some hackathons. Those are all outputs. How did I do in the hackathon? How did I do in the subject? You'll keep measuring whether you're continuously improving to aim at that outcome, which is I want to be looked at as a cybersecurity, a person who is good in cybersecurity and get a job in cybersecurity. That is the outcome. So if you get into this habit as a student to keep measuring outputs, but using those to always aim for the outcome, that's when you will start doing work which is focused and which actually is useful. Okay. So this is what we call as the lineage, right? So we talk the same thing, right? These are the various things the company keeps measuring. But finally, if you look at the top, everything is about the business metrics. Everything else just contributes to that. So each department, each area is measured. Those are the measurements. There are metrics at each level also, but finally all of them contribute to the key metric which is at the company level. It may be revenue, it may be profits, it may be customer growth, it may be number of year-on-year growth of your anything. Those are all about uh, uh, company level metrics, and everybody contributes to that. And we have covered a lot of this right now today in the case study. And this is literally how companies work. They will see whether each department. So when you hear that, oh, this department got shut down, this team got laid off, this product got shut down, that is because that team, that department was not contributing to the company metric. There may be fantastic engineers. They're producing great products. They're working very hard, but it didn't matter because you're not contributing to the metric, which means if you had paid attention to that, you would have changed. Oh, wait a second. I need to design my product in a different way because whatever I'm doing, I think it is great, but it is not impacting my company metric, which is more products are not getting sold. So I need to do something different. That's when you'll start thinking about improvements. But if you don't pay attention to the numbers, you may think you're doing a great job and one day you'll get fired because you're not contributing to the company metric. So this is called a lineage. So the moral of the story, guys, is as an engineer, when you join any company for any function, know what your metrics and measurements are at an individual level. Know what your metrics and measurements are at a team level. Know what your metrics and measurements are at a department level. You may be in a team which is developing working on a particular component or a feature, but the department maybe engineering department. So at the engineering department level or a product department or a testing QA department, at that level, what are the metrics and measurements they do? And then overall the company what they do. And you need to make sure you always understand this lineage. Then you'll know. And when I work and I do my measures and my metric, how are they contributing to the team, thus to the department, and thus to the company? And wherever you see this red saying, oh, whatever I do, I'm having a negative impact on my team metrics, you'll step back and say, let me do some critical thinking and see how I can improve myself. Like with using one of the techniques we learned today of second order thinking. There are many techniques. We teach them in Satkam, right? So there are like 15, 20 good models. And we'll cover those in those topics, but you also covered them in the critical thinking topic. Right? I don't know, e-commerce. I was going to give you a very interesting one about just this. These have nothing to do with the case study. The case study is done, but this is just interesting because all of you are exposed to Amazon, Flipkart. So there, I just wanted to tell you just for your knowledge, right? So they do various metrics. So they have metrics around reach. Reach means how many customers am I reaching? So if I'm Amazon, how many customers in Maharashtra I'm reaching, or Tamil Nadu, or Haryana, or Gujarat, or UP? How many? What is my reach or international, right? Reach. Where all I'm getting customers from? They keep measuring that. But the more the reach is, the more potential of me getting more revenue. Activation means how many customers are actually signing over. So Netflix or Amazon or Flipkart will say how many, while I'm reaching everybody, how many are coming up and creating a user ID password and creating an account on my site. So that's called activation or acquisition. These are the customers I'm acquiring. They keep measuring that. Another metric, they use the metrics around engagement. Engagement means if you're on the e-commerce side, let's say you're on Amazon or Flipkart, they keep measuring how many people who came in, they browse, but they bought something. They keep coming up and buying something again and again. They keep engaging with the platform to browse. So that is called engagement. Because without engagement, I can't retain them. Because if I come and I go around Amazon and I don't find it interesting, I'll not come back. I'll go to Flipkart. I'll go to Meesho. Right? So if I engage, then I can retain. Retain means next time I want to buy something, I'll again come on Amazon only. Next time, I'll again come on Amazon, which means I'm retaining that customer. And more customers I retain, I finally they'll start paying me money and they'll contribute to my business by actually giving me money. So like if you notice, a lot of companies, let's say Book My Show, right? With every ticket I buy on Book My Show, they make money. But let's say there are 1,000 competition to Book My Show and Book My Show didn't do a good job of engaging me. I'll go to somebody else. So all of these commerce companies, e-commerce companies, right? They do metrics around reach, activation or acquisition, engagement, retention, and last piece, which is called business here, is called monetization. How much money I'm making from these guys? Because very simple, right? If they reach me, so let's say Meesho is trying to reach me. So I see some ad about Meesho, some sale they are doing, some discount they are giving. That means they're reaching me. How many of like me they're reaching? That's a reach metric. Then if they are reaching me, are they convincing me they're good enough for me to create an account and they acquire me as a customer? That is called acquisition or activation. That they measure that. How many more like me are they acquiring? If they're acquiring me, are they able to engage me? Am I staying on Meesho, browsing, trying to buy, putting in a shopping cart? How much time they're engaging me? They measure how much time I spent on their portal. Where do I spend the time? Right? What is engaging me? Which page? Am I buying something? That is called engagement. They measure that. They measure retention, which means that I may come here today and next time I come only 1 year later, I never come back. Then my retention is very bad. But if I come today, I again come in 10 days and buy something. I come later, again in a few days, I buy something. That means they're retaining me. I'm getting convinced that Meesho is a good platform. And if I'm doing all of that, finally, am I buying or not? Yeah, am I just browsing or am I buying it? Because if I buy, they're going to make money. That is called monetization or business. That's what they measure. So these are the things typically all these digital commerce companies measure. So you should just remember this: reach, acquisition or activation, engagement, retention, and monetization or business. These are the main things they keep measuring. And if you work for one of these companies like Amazon or Flipkart or Meesho or Book My Show or Netflix or Hotstar, you should know which of these metrics you are impacting with the feature you're developing, you're testing, right? We just talked about the lineage, right? So if I'm working on a feature, is it going to help me in acquiring customers or reaching customers or engaging customers or retaining customers or monetizing or making them buy something from me? Which of these am I contributing to? You should do your metrics and measurements to finally know what you're contributing to. The features you're developing, which part of these are contributing to. Then you will know, and if they don't, then you'll say, wait a second, maybe we should redesign them. Maybe we should do something different. And those are the people who come with good ideas. So this was just for knowledge, guys. Our Electronova case study is done. This was just for your knowledge because many of you may join digital commerce companies, right? So that's all I had in today's session on metrics and measurements. Hope it was interesting. Trust me, guys, this is one of the most important things to learn. And again, statistically, if I work with 10 engineers, 8 engineers don't use this unless I tell them to do it. So you may want to start before only, so that when you talk to a person from the industry during your interview, or when you after you join, he will immediately know you are the person who he needs to focus on, give you more opportunities. Very important. Because numbers tell a story. Everything else is subjective. What cannot be measured is not real. What is not measurable is just not real. Simple. Okay. With that, I will pause now and stop. Are there any questions? Or give me a thumbs up if you have understood, not understood. But any questions? Okay. All right, then. In that case, we are done with today's topic. Thanks for your time. Bye bye.